Well, that turtle clip really describes what my season's doing right now. Slow. When we get to the mid part of October, we usually encounter what we call the fall lull or October lull. Hunters are often asking themselves, where did all the deer go? They were there last week. Usually it's because of one thing: acorns. Well, it was another slow morning. We did see doe and 2 fawns, we just weren't able to get them on tape. But one of the things that I think's holding us up is all this right here. There are acorns everywhere from white oaks right now, and it's really thrown a big twist into hunting. Typically this is kind of around the same time everybody calls the fall lull, October lull. And really what it is early in the season we get set up on a lot of man-made food sources, whether it's a food plot or cash crops, corn and soybean, and we pattern deer that way. Well, as soon as the acorns start falling, everything changes, and that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. It's not just a tree that we can pattern, there's acorns falling everywhere. And let's look at it in a human sense. If there's a refrigerator next to your couch, a refrigerator in your bathroom, a refrigerator next to your bed, you don't have to go very far for food. Well, that's pretty much what we've got going on right now in terms of deer. There's so many acorns around that a deer has food everywhere it's going. So they're not going to be traveling much. We're not going to have those same patterns going to and from a food plot or to and from cash crops. So this is kind of the time of persistence, especially on public land. It's already hard enough to really pattern deer because you have an increased amount of hunter pressure on these public lands. But now, the food source being so unpredictable, it's going to make it really tough. So I think the next few weeks are going to be a really big stretch into seeing deer. We're going to keep at it, keep persistent. Maybe we'll run into a buck. Likely it's just going to be straight doe hunting. We're going to keep our cameras going, see what we get on them. But it's something I just definitely wanted to point out is stay persistent. Don't get run down. Don't get frustrated. It's just nature, and it's always going to happen. And pretty soon, before we know it, it'll be the rut, and everything's going to change. Deer aren't thinking with their stomachs then. So we'll just keep at it and keep moving. If you're like me, even when you're not seeing deer, I'm still out in the stand. I'm going to be out there every chance I get. A lot of guys will stop hunting at this point because they don't want to bump a mature buck. They want to save that success for the rut. To me, it's all about the hunt. I want to be successful, but I want to be out there every chance I get, enjoying my passion. During this time of year, my trail cameras are my instructors. If the Bushnell Trophy Cam is telling me that deer are moving during daylight hours at a particular stand, you better believe the next time I have a chance to get out, I'll be at that tree stand. Trail cameras are really going to be our lifeline during this change in food sources. We were picking up a lot of activity early in the season, getting a couple shooter bucks on camera, and basically just by checking your cards you can really tell what the activity is like in that area. You're going to notice if deer are coming through in daylight hours still, or if they're coming through at night, or if they're coming through at all. One thing that I like to do personally, especially on public land, is I like to locate my trail cameras close to my stands. Now, when you have private land and you have ample cameras, you can be able to be pretty generous with them and put them out in different trails, different areas of the field that deer are coming in and out of. But on public land, first of all, I don't put out a whole lot of cameras, and what I want to do with them is put them where I'm going to be hunting. There's no sense in me patterning deer coming out of a corner of a field if I'm not going to hunt 200-300 yards close to that spot. So if you have that camera right by your stand, then when you check your card, you're able to see what's coming past that stand, and compare it to the wind. If there's deer not coming through on a north wind, and you can only hunt that stand on a north wind, you probably need to make a change. So that's one really good thing about cameras, and definitely place them where you're going to hunt. You know, you usually put a tree stand where you're going to see deer, so the camera is going to be able to be there and monitor it. Don't go and put them on main trails in the general vicinity of where you hunt. I think it kind of defeats the purpose, especially on public land. Well, my trail cameras were telling me that the morning was the best chance I had at harvesting a deer. And I went out quite a few mornings and encountered some does and small bucks, but never could seal the deal. It seemed like every time I had an opportunity, they busted me. Well, one day when we were out checking trail cameras about 10 a.m., we run into this great 2-year-old 9-point. We've seen him once before on a Bushnell trophy cam when he was running with Curvy 8. Now he's out in this field all by himself, and he's really blowing and scratching at his nose. And I think what he had was nasal bots. It's basically a fly larvae that gets up in the nasal cavity and back in the throat, cause a deer to cough, cause him to sneeze, and it's really agitating, but in the long run it's not going to affect that deer. We've caught him on Bushnell trophy cam since then, and we got video of him during daylight hours. Didn't seem like he had any issues whatsoever. Came right through and walked right off. No sneezing, no coughing, no pushing at that nose. So I think he's in good shape, and he's a buck that I really like to see make it another year. But on public land, you just never know. Well, we're in the last part of October, and as you can see, warm today. High 70s and even mid 80s tomorrow. What I call the rutivity, or rut activity, I don't think it's really going to start until about the first week in November here. I haven't seen hardly any scrapes and just a few rubs. But in other places of the country, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, I've heard of a lot of 2-year-olds on their feet, and I wouldn't be surprised if some mature bucks start moving by the end of this week. So what I want to do is leave you with our hit list. We've got 5 bucks that we're really looking for here in public pursuit on this particular property. One is probably going to be a late season deer, and I doubt we'll take him anytime before mid-November. But the other 4 are mature deer and some really good deer. As much as I'd like to see Giant come walking through, I'll take any of these bucks with a good video, and hopefully I'll see you next time on Buckscore's Public Pursuit.